Welcome to Sovah Says. It is a week 4 edition. We are so happy to have you back with us. If this is a return visit for you, if you're a first time viewer, I'm super stoked to have you with us. This is the Wincinnati official NFL Power Ranking Show. I am your host, Ryan Sovah Yunt. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan_Sovah_Yunt. So I appreciate the support, appreciate you being here. Follow me on Twitter and we'll have some good NFL conversation. We'll talk Bengals, whatever's on your mind. Like I said, it is week 4. So the picture is becoming a lot clearer. It is coming into focus now. We are seeing what teams really are, who they really are. Their record now is becoming a reflection of what they are putting out on the field each week. And the power rankings, as we start to go along now, instead of being sort of knee-jerk early on from week to week and seeing what teams are showing, they are more of a cumulative ranking based on the strength of who they are and how healthy they are and how talented they are and what they are showing on each week. So let's get to the power rankings as we start. This bottom tier, this is rough. This is really rough. If you're the Chicago Bears and you're a Chicago Bears fan, you're watching this 0-3 team. They look absolutely lost on offense. They fall in 2 spots. They are now at the bottom of the barrel here, and they look like they have an eye clearly set on April. I think they found their quarterback, but when April comes calling, that first overall pick is going to be pretty valuable. We'll see what the Bears, if things trend this way, do with it. Carolina, despite another loss, they actually move up because, well, the Bears have been so bad that they take the bottom spot. If you're the Denver Broncos, wow, you burn that tape. You ignore. You probably have to tell yourself that it was all a dream. It was all a nightmare, and it never happened. 70 points in an NFL game, losing by 50 is bad. No team is 50 points better than another team. This was clearly just one of those days. Thank you, Monica. But Denver is a bad team, and we are starting to see that Nathaniel Hackett probably wasn't the sole reason for how bad they were last year, regardless of what Sean Payton wanted to tell you in this offseason. The Arizona Cardinals, they move up 2 spots to number 29 after a huge upset win over the Cowboys. So things obviously trending up. They start to move their way up. Still not a lot of faith in what this team is doing, but, hey, a huge win can maybe spiral or snowball into some bigger things. I don't really feel confident about the Cardinals in the long term, but hey, that was a huge win and something to really, really, really be proud of when you're trying to build the character of that team in the new head coach's, sort of philosophy. Minnesota, the Jets, the Raiders all take huge tumbles, with Las Vegas and New York moving down 7 spots. The Vikings 0-3. Nobody, I don't think anyone predicted 0-3 for the Vikings. They continually, week in and week out, shoot themselves in the foot. Unforced errors, fumbles, interceptions, turnovers, bad decisions. They're just a mess right now. And if it wasn't for the Chicago Bears in their division being so bad, Minnesota would have real things they have some real bad things to worry about right now, but they'd be staring at the basement. The Jets, look, we said when Aaron Rodgers went down, we don't see any difference between this team and last year's team that was, scheduled to pick in the top 10. They're getting nothing from the quarterback position and Zach Wilson. I hate to, after 3 years, label a guy a bust, but it really looks bad. And, Trevor Siemian being signed, and things aren't getting any better. The Las Vegas Raiders, that was a gutless performance by your head coach. Going for field goals late when you needed touchdowns. This was a team from the beginning I had high hopes for. And there's just nothing to be excited about in Las Vegas, and they are tumbling right now. The New England Patriots, they get a win. They only move up one spot because I don't really have faith in everything else around them. And I don't have, the teams above them were better. The Titans, they lose to the Browns, but they still move up a spot. This is more about teams that we maybe had higher rankings on moving back behind them. So more teams that we were uncertain on before. So the Tennessee Titans, 1-2, they move up after a loss to Cleveland where they looked pretty hapless. They have the Bengals coming into town next week, who kind of had their number in Tennessee as of late. We'll see what happens there. The Giants, they lose to the 49ers. On Thursday night, the 49ers are the number one team in the power rankings the last couple of weeks, so there's not a lot to hang your head too much about. They move up one spot again like the Titans despite the loss. The Houston Texans, I want to talk about this Houston Texans team. They move up 7 spots to our 22 spot. They are so well coached. They will give you everything that they have. And CJ Stroud is having a really good rookie year. We're 3 weeks in, so this is all just based on 3 weeks, but CJ Stroud and the defense, they all look really, really good. They are a feisty 1-2 team. I can see them, maybe later on in the year, maybe ruining someone's playoff hopes, or let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't think this is a wild card team, but they're going to be a problem week in and week out. So salute to the Houston Texans who move up 7 spots. The Los Angeles Rams, they fall on Monday night. They're 1-2 now. They fall 4 spots to the 21. We'll get more into that when we talk about the Bengals a little bit later. The Jacksonville Jaguars, wow, 12 spots. They fall 12 spots to the number 20. What is happening with Jacksonville? They were supposed to run away with that division. And I think, their head coach has said that, maybe we're struggling living up to some of the preseason hype. Maybe they were reading their news clippings, but God, that's such an outdated term. No, there's no such things as newspapers anymore. But Trevor Lawrence, the Calvin Ridley connection, it looked really good early on. Jacksonville's loss. They get pummeled this past week and by the Texans, and they've got some splaining to do. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they move down 1 spot. They're at number 19. They lose on Monday night to the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, one of those losses where, the Eagles are so good that it's hard to hang your head too much on that. I don't know. I think maybe the 2-0 start was a little bit of a mirage. We'll see. After 3 weeks, they are still 2-1. So they have a lot to prove. They don't have a lot. Well, they have some to prove. And we'll see if Baker Mayfield can get things going again. They were just critically overmatched on Monday night. They are our number 19 team. Here's a team, another team from the South, the Indianapolis Colts at 2-1. They're in first place in the division. They go into Baltimore, knock off the Ravens with their backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, in overtime. There's so much needs to be said about how disciplined the Colts look. They're doing this without their rookie quarterback this past week. They haven't had Jonathan Taylor, who's, arguably a top 2 or 3 running back in the entire league. He hasn't played all season. They may get him back week 5. Now, can you imagine a surging Colts team getting Jonathan Taylor back and getting their rushing game going and pairing him with a healthy Anthony Richardson? Wow. The Colts are something to be excited about. Let's talk about, because this is a Wincinnati channel, we're going to spend a little time here. Let's talk about the Bengals moving up 5 spots to the number 17 spot after their win on Monday night against the Rams. Look, if it's the offense, if you were talking about the offense, it wasn't pretty. But you know what? Joe Burrow came out and played a game, and that offensive line kept him relatively unscathed. I know that Aaron Donald got to him 1.5 times, but, Aaron Donald is a freak of nature and a 3-time defensive MVP and a first ballot Hall of Famer. Aaron Donald belongs on the Mount Rushmore of defensive players in NFL history. So, I'm not going to, if Aaron Donald gets a sack and a half and they still win the game, I'm going to be okay with that. But Joe Burrow has 52 dropbacks and 49 pass attempts. He was a game time decision going into the game. If Zach Taylor ever needed to commit to the run to save his quarterback or protect him or just take some of the flow of the defense away from his quarterback, it would have been on Monday night, but he didn't do it. Joe Mixon had a touchdown run and was averaging over 4 yards a pop. Still, Zach is obsessed with passing the ball, and I get it. He has a unicorn at quarterback. But that guy was hobbling into the week, and through the first 3 weeks now, he hasn't been the Joe Burrow we know, because we obviously know he's still dealing with a calf injury. Jamar Chase had his breakout game of the year. He's needed that. The offense has needed that. 12 catches for $141. That's a great night for Jamar Chase. Would have loved to see him get in the end zone. Would have loved to see a 2023 gritty from Jamar. Still haven't got that yet. Still in the donut column for touchdowns this year. But what the Bengals did show is they played a really good Rams offense. They gave the 49ers, one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the league, some fits the previous week. And that defense had 6 sacks, their most since 2019. Trey Hendrickson had probably 2 sacks wiped away from penalties that I'm not even sure should have been called penalties. He was everywhere. We saw Dax Hill in the primetime bright lights be a first-round pick and show everyone why he was a first-round pick last year. He's already played more snaps this year than he did all of last year. And they are deploying him from everywhere, as Joe Goodberry pointed out on Twitter earlier this week. Dax Hill looks fast, is playing faster, and he looks like a star in the making. Logan Wilson, 2 interceptions. He continues to be one of the best, if not the best, coverage linebacker, passing down situation linebacker, minus the pass rush, in the NFL. He has 9 interceptions since he entered the league. That is the second most at linebacker. So the Bengals get the first win of the year, a huge win with the white helmets in the front of the Monday night crowd. They move up 5 spots to 17. They head to Tennessee this week. If they can get on a roll, they have an early bye. That may just be what they need to come out with a fully healthy Joe Burrow and do what they did last year. The Washington Commanders, the Buffalo Bills took it to them, and they were critically overmatched. They fall 6 spots to number 16. Still like what Washington has. It's just 1 week. We'll see how they rebound from that. Green Bay, they look left for dead. They were down 17-0. Derek Carr goes down to an injury, so in comes Jameis Winston, the turnover machine, and Green Bay comes back to win the game and beat the New Orleans Saints. They move up a spot. The Los Angeles Chargers, they take care of the Vikings. They move up 1 with their first win of the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, big risers here. They move to 2-1. They move up 8 spots. Pittsburgh is, the defense. They're always going to be strong defensively, and they're going to get after the quarterback, and they are going to cause turnovers based off pressure. But what their offense is starting to show is some big playability. It seems like every time you check the score or you check the play-by-play, wow, the Steelers had a 70-yard touchdown or so. So explosive plays on offense are going to carry, when you don't really think that the run game or the quarterback are talented enough to eat up long 12, 13 play drives. But if you're going to score in 2 or 3 plays from 70 yards out, you don't need those. Steelers, big risers this week, closing in on the top 10. They are our number 13 team. The New Orleans Saints, we talked about their loss to the Green Bay Packers. The reason they remain up here is because what we've seen from them with a healthy Derek Carr is a team that is in the top half of the league. When they don't have Derek Carr, they slide back, and they're a different team. A lot, in all fairness, most teams without their starting quarterback are different teams. That's why the Saints only fall 3 and still remain ahead of the Packers despite falling to them this past Sunday. A couple of teams that faced off this past week, the Lions and the Falcons, both good teams. The Falcons lose, but they still move up one because the health of their team right now. That's why I have them ahead of the Saints and at 2-1, and they are in the 11th spot. The Detroit Lions took care of business. They took down the Atlanta Falcons. I like the Lions a lot. I like what they do. They're a scrappy team in the mold of their head coach. Their quarterback makes plays. Sam Laporta at tight end. Wow. What a pick for them. I know Bengals fans, you loved Sam Laporta coming out of the draft and would have loved to have a chance to pick him. Detroit gets him, and he looks like he's given them more in the first 3 weeks than TJ Hawkinson gave them in 3 years. Let's be honest. So the Lions move up 1 spot with the win over the Atlanta Falcons. The Dallas Cowboys. We talked about what Arizona did. Their defense is predicated on speed and pursuit. And guys like Micah Parsons crashing down and attacking. What they weren't ready for was the misdirection and the running of Josh Dobbs, and it hurt him. And obviously the Cowboys were doomed by a really bad red zone interception by Dak Prescott. It is the one thing holding Dallas back. They can put up points by bunches and they can shut teams down, but in really critical moments, their quarterback has a giant question mark on his jersey. And that's just a fact about Dak Prescott. He's shown us who he is. There is enough film and enough tape to watch to know that he, in critical moments, just quite isn't the guy, and it's cost them, and it cost them on Sunday. So the Cowboys fall 3 spots. They remain in the top 10 because, look, they're still going to score a ton of points, and they're going to hammer other teams on defense. So the Cowboys, for me, at 2-1, they're the number 9 team. Seattle Seahawks, 2 wins in a row now after dropping the opener to the Rams. They move up 5 spots back into the top 10 at the number 8 spot. I like what Geno does. Kenneth Walker was a monster on Sunday, getting just in like the high 90s and a couple of touchdowns. Seattle just kind of plods away, and nothing super flashy, although they have really talented guys at the playmaker positions, but they just kind of wear you down and beat you down. They did that to a completely overmatched Carolina team who showed some, fire early on in the game, but Seattle was just too much. Cleveland up 7 spots to the 7 hole. Couple of AFC North teams here back to back with Baltimore and Cleveland. However, 2 kind of go in the opposite way here. Cleveland gets the win. They take care of business. They look dominant on defense. Myles Garrett is the early front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, and I'm not sure it's close. What he's done through 3 weeks to affect teams has been stellar, and probably playing the best football of his career right now. Deshaun Watson had his best game as a Brown. Without Nick Chubb, the passing game needed to do its thing, and they did enough of it, and they took care of, a Tennessee team that has a pretty talented defense and is usually a really sound defensive unit with Vrabel. So Cleveland, they move up 7 spots. They look like a team playing for a division title this year. Baltimore, after a huge win in Cincinnati this week, major letdown at home to the Indianapolis Colts. Baltimore's still a solid team. They moved down 2 spots to our number 6 spot. Still like what they're doing. They could have easily won that game. A couple of 4th downs didn't go their way. And, rightfully so. They were incomplete passes and the Colts converted. But Baltimore, they're going to be tough. They just always seem to have a loss or 2 like this every year where it's like you just think they're going to dominate some team that comes into Baltimore and they don't take care of business. They just have a letdown. So no OBJ in the lineup this year. We'll see how that affects Their offense going forward, they didn't score many points. Credit to Indianapolis's defense, but they moved down 2 spots to our number 6. The Buffalo Bills, back in the top 5. They're at 2-1. Josh Allen was throwing it all over the place. Had one bad interception, but I mean, the plays he can make single-handedly are super impressive, and he's another unicorn at the position. Buffalo, dominant, move up 2 spots. They took care of an undefeated Commanders team. They still look like one of the elite teams, which makes it really exciting because this upcoming week is Bills Dolphins. So that's got to be the game of the week for NFL fans. The Kansas City Chiefs, they move up a spot. They take care of business. If I hear one more thing about Taylor Swift, I'm going to punch myself in the face. Travis Kelce scores a touchdown. We get 9 million cutaways to Taylor Swift in a suite with his mom. God, I could care less. The Chiefs win. That's what they do. But now it's going to be about Taylor Swift, and I'm clearly exhausted already. The Philadelphia Eagles, down a spot despite winning handily on Monday night against the Bucs. The Eagles just do their thing, man. They just every week they have the best roster in football, so they are going to have the better players, and they just take care of business. And some weeks it's all running game, and then some weeks it's a nice mix. They had a nice mix on this Monday against the Bucs. They drop to our number 3 spot because what the Miami Dolphins did on Sunday was not only unprecedented, like if we're going to go back to the 60s, and, if we're going to go back, 60 years, then, what you did this past week is unprecedented. That was a completely different NFL back then. 70 points. And they could have went for the record with a field goal to get 73. What is happening they didn't even have Jalen Waddle. What is happening with the Denver defense that they allowed 70 points? Every single play. They've got guys. They had a 350-yard passer. They had a 200-yard rusher. They had a 150-yard receiver. They had 700-plus yards of total offense. That's insane. Tua threw 4 touchdowns. Tyreek's is just open everywhere. The motions and shifting and misdirection that Miami is using right now is so far ahead of everyone else in the game right now that who knows? We may see more 60-point games and more scores like this. They get the Bills this week, so we're going to see. We're going to find out, if this team can sustain that. And I don't think they can sustain 70 points every week, but if they're like a high 40 to low 50 type team, you wouldn't think in the parity of the NFL, but they just look like they are out scheming everyone right now. And so the Miami Dolphins, they were already high, so they move up 1 spot. They leapfrog. They switch places with the Philadelphia Eagles in our rankings, 3-0. And that leaves the San Francisco 49ers. Thursday night, maybe some recency bias would have put the Dolphins at 1. But you know what? They played on Thursday, so they were a little further back in our memory. But you know what? They took care of business, and they dominated the Giants. It was not close. It was not as close as the score showed. The San Francisco 49ers are just a well-oiled machine, and they're going to beat the crap out of you every week. And that's what we're seeing. God, I would love a Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers week 4. Wouldn't that be great? So those are our rankings here. The top 5 is still very similar. The top 10 has some new entries, when we're talking about Cleveland and Seattle and teams like that, teams that, we're excited about. As we come up on the quarter poll, we're going to find out even more about who these teams are. We are going to see if teams that are dealing with injuries, someone like the Bengals, are they getting healthier? How is a short week going to affect Joe Burrow? We'll see. We'll see if the rest of the offense can catch up and be on the Bengals defense level right now. But it's going to be it's been an exciting first 3 weeks. There's some surprises, good and bad. The Vikings doing what they're doing is really, really head scratching, but they have way too much talent to be where they are. So I hope you joined us. You can always catch Sovah Says, the Wincinnati Power Rankings on Wednesdays on YouTube. So appreciate you coming by. We'll see you next week.